Hey guys, I'm here because I'm going to do a Fragment Friday. I know I haven't done one in forever, but I just had the urge to do one, so I'm going to do one. And I'm doing it on Duff McKagan's book, It's So Easy and Other Lies. It's an adult book. And the part I'm going to read to you has drugs in it, which if you're familiar with Guns N' Roses, and a lot of bands back in the 80s and 90s, drugs were usually involved. So this is what I'm reading. If you don't want to hear it, you're not going to offend me, shut it off. I won't even know. Chapter 1. I've known a lot of junkies. Many of these addicts have either died or continue to live a pitiful existence to this day. With many of these same people, I personally witnessed a wonderful lust for life as we played music together as kids and looked toward the future. Of course, no one sets out to be a junkie or an alcoholic. Some people can experiment in their youth and move on. Others cannot. When Guns N' Roses began to break into the public consciousness, I was known as a big drinker. In 1988, MTV aired a concert in which Axl introduced me, as usual, as Duff, the King of Bears McKagan. Soon after this, a production company working on a new animated series called me to ask if they could use the name Duff for a brand of beer on the show. I laughed and said, of course, no problem. The whole thing sounded like a low-rent art project or something. I mean, who made cartoons for adults? Little did I know that the show would become The Simpsons, and that within a few years, I would start to see Duff beer glasses and gear everywhere we toured. Still, given what I'd seen, reputation for drinking didn't seem like a big deal. But by the time Guns N' Roses spent 28 months from 91 to 93 touring the Use Your Illusion albums, my intake had reached epic proportions. For the Round the World Illusion tour, Guns leased a private plane. It wasn't an executive jet, it was a full-on 727 we leased from MGM Casino, with lounges and individual bedroom suites for the band members. Slash and I christened the plane on our maiden journey by smoking crack together. Before the wheels had left the ground, not something I recommend incidentally, the smell gets in everything. I don't even remember playing Czechoslovakia. We played a stadium show in one of the most beautiful cities in East Europe, not long after the fall of the Berlin Wall, and the only way I knew I'd even been in the country was because of the stamp I found in my passport. It wasn't clear anymore whether or not I would be one of those who could experiment in his youth and move on. Every day I made sure I had a vodka bottle sitting next to my bed when I woke up. I tried to quit drinking in 1992, but started again with a vengeance after only a few weeks. I just could not stop. I was too far gone. My hair began falling out in clumps, and my kidneys ached when I pissed. My body couldn't take the full assault of the alcohol without bitching back at me. My septum had burned through from coke, and my nose ran continuously like a leaky faucet in a neglected men's room urinal. The skin on my hands and feet cracked, and I had boils on my face and neck. I had to wear bandages under my gloves in order to be able to play my bass. There are many different ways to come out of a funk like that. Some people go straight to rehab, some go to church. Others go to AA, and many more end up in a pine box, which is where I felt I was headed. By early 1993, my cocaine use had gotten so bad that friends, some of whom did blow or smoked crack with me, actually started tentatively talking to me about it and trying their best to keep my dealers out of my life when I arrived back home for a break between legs of the tour. But I had my ways to circumvent all the do-gooders. There was always a way in L.A. One of the lies that I told myself was that I wasn't really a cocaine addict. After all, I didn't go to coke parties and never did cocaine by itself. As a matter of fact, I hated the idea that I was doing coke. My use was strictly utilitarian. I used its stimulant effects to stave off drunkenness and to allow me to drink for much longer, often days on end. Actually, mostly days on end. Because I was adamant about not becoming the stereotypical coke guy, I didn't have any of the fancy grinders that made coke a lot easier to snort. I would just get my package, open it, break a rock into a few smaller pieces in a half-assed way, and shove one of the pieces up my nose. Of course, I could tell that my primitive process was taking a toll. The inside of my nose was always on fire. Sometimes it flared so badly that I would double over in pain. Then the wife of my main coke dealer, Josh, got pregnant. I started to worry that she had not given up her own coke habit. One thing that never seeped from my otherwise porous ethical system. Almost anything could be deemed fun and games when it was your life and your life alone that you were toying with. But endangering someone else was unacceptable. I was not going to participate in any situation where an innocent third party was being harmed. This was not just basic human decency. I came from a huge family, and by this point in my life I had something like 23 nephews and nieces, all of whom I had known since they were infants. No, I was going to put my foot down here with Josh and his wife Yvette and insist that she quit. I didn't yet have the capacity to lead by example, but I did offer to pay for her to go to rehab. Both Josh and Yvette swore to me that, geez, of course she had stopped, and that there was absolutely no fucking way she would do that while the baby was in utero. I was suspicious. One weekend they came to stay with me and some other friends at a cabin I had bought on Lake Arrowhead up in the mountains east of LA. Josh had, of course, brought drugs, and I had given him and Yvette one of the downstairs bedrooms. I could tell Yvette was high. To check on my suspicions, I quietly entered their downstairs bedroom and found her bent over snorting a line of coke. Seeing this for myself made me realize that I had sunk to an all-time low in my life. I lost it. I kicked them out of my house and told them that I never wanted to see them again. I was seething, at them and at myself. I quit coke that day and drank myself through 2 brutal weeks of serious depression. Even though the effects of my drinking were more noticeable without the coke, drinking proved harder to rein in, much less kick. These days, I know what having the DTs actually means. The clinical definition of delirium tremens is a severe psychotic condition occurring in some persons with chronic alcoholism, characterized by uncontrollable trembling, vivid hallucinations, severe anxiety, sweating, and sudden feelings of terror. All I knew then was that it wasn't cool. I felt really sick. My body was falling apart so badly that I looked like I was getting radiation treatment. Throughout the Use Your Illusion tour, I had recorded songs on my own, ducking into studios here and there. This project has served largely as a way to kill time I would otherwise have spent drinking, and I didn't know what the demos were for, really. One of them, my version of Johnny Thunders' You Can't Put Your Arms Around a Memory, ended up in GNR's Spaghetti Incident, the album of cover songs issued just after the end of Use Your Illusion tour. I played a bit of everything over the course of the sessions: drums, guitar, bass. I sang too, and if you listen to the album, it's clear I wasn't able to breathe through my nose on some songs. Then at some point during the tour, a record label employee who was out on the road with us asked where I kept disappearing to on off days. I told him. When Tom Zutaut, who had signed Guns to Geffen Records, caught wind of the demos, he asked me if I would like a solo deal. Geffen, he said, could release the tracks as an album. I knew he was probably being mercenary about it. By this time Nirvana and Pearl Jam had broken, and Zutaut probably figured leveraging my Seattle roots and punk connections could help the label reposition GNR. But I didn't care. To me, it was a chance to realize a dream. I had grown up idolizing Prince, who played over 20 instruments on his debut album, which featured the amazing credit line, written, composed, performed, and recorded by Prince. Cool, my own record done the way Prince did it. Largely on my own, getting distributed around the world. So that's how it starts off, and then it goes back and forth between what was happening at the time to when he was little and so forth. And it goes on and to I'm thinking to when he recovers and gets off of drugs and alcohol. I know currently he has 2 teenage daughters and he's married. So if you like these kind of books and you like GNR, then I definitely recommend picking this up because the writing's really good. It's very interesting so far. All right, bye.